Welcome
to the joy of coding.
Hello, and welcome to episode 383 of The Joy of Coding. My name is Mike Conley. It's so good to have you here. Gonna be live hacking on some Firefox stuff. I haven't even, you know what? Oh, fantastic, Okris. I really appreciate you saying something in the message and saying hello, or saying something in the chat, because you helped me just now test that the bridge is working, and it is. So thank goodness for that. That's a thumbs up. 5 points for Okris. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right, it's November 13th, 2024, episode 383. A reminder, no plan survives breakfast. I think I know what I want to do today. I think I know how things are going to go forward, but they might not. We might get stuck. We might get sidelined, and that's okay. You're watching me do work that is kind of unplanned. It's just me hacking on stuff, and so that means we might get sidelined, or who knows, and that's all right. Or we might make great progress. Anything could happen. That's the first thing. Second thing is that the agenda that we're looking at is available to you. Depending on where you're watching this, the link to it is going to be in a couple of different places. If you're watching this on YouTube, scroll down, it'll be in the video description. If you're watching this on Air Mozilla, it's over there in the details section, and if you're watching this on Twitch, it's down in the channel details. But in any of those places, anytime I update the documentation in this little spinny spins, if you reload the page, you'll see the updates. So there you go. Let's get going. So what we were doing last time, we have been working for the past couple of weeks on documentation. Specifically documentation for a rather fiddly part of the code base called customizable UI. There's a whole bunch of different parts to it. I'm going to rebase my changes onto bookmarks central. Make sure it's all up to date. We've got 7 patches in our stack here. I think, yeah, last time we worked on documentation for drag position manager, I believe we finished off toolbar context menu. We're going to be going into some murkier waters today. I'll go ahead and build this. But the place that we're going to go next, if I remember correctly, let's close some of these up. Is there what's the keyboard shortcut to collapse everything? I don't know it. Because there's some deep folders here. Collapse. I want customizable UI. Here we go. We've done toolbar context menu. We did search widget tracker. We've done panel multi-view is done. I'm pretty sure it's done. Did we get everything? I'm pretty sure we did. I mean, certainly passing all of the JSDoc linting tests, and from a visual inspection, it looks like we got all of it. We got most of it anyways. Drag position manager is done. Ooh, there's a complaint here that we're gonna have to fix real quick, which is that we expect a new line here. So we can do that. And then, so we weren't done with drag position manager. We were still working on drag position manager. That's where we were last week. We were still working on drag. Yeah, there's some missing stuff here. We got to finish off drag position manager. It looks like we'd gotten about this far and we were still going. So we're going to finish off drag position manager. That's going to be our first step. Yeah, it looks like we got about this far. We're here in this function called find. I'm going to bump up the font so you can see what's going on here. Find. So find the closest node in the container given the coordinates. Closest is defined in a somewhat strange manner. We prefer nodes which are in the same row over nodes that are in a different row. So there's a weighted Cartesian distance. Let's quickly define what that is. I mean, I know what a Cartesian plane is. A weighted distance. Weighted and unweighted. So here's, I think I understand the theory of a weighted Cartesian distance. Basically what you're saying is there are if you get 2 pixel coordinates, you can apply different weights depending, basically change the interpretation of distance on the Cartesian plane depending on various rules. You can apply weights so that like something that's close actually seems further because it hits some specific rule. So it sounds like what's going on here is this method is given some coordinates. If an element is on a different row in this grid, it's given a greater distance than its actual distance. That's my interpretation based on what I know of geometry and the Cartesian plane. Let's see if that bears out. We use a weighted Cartesian distance where dy is more heavily weighted. So dy, the distance in y, that's not the change in the vertical axis is more heavily weighted by a factor corresponding to the ratio between the container's width and the height of its elements. Oof, that's complicated. A factor corresponding to the ratio between the container's width and the height of its elements. Oh, that's interesting. So that in the event that you have a very thin column, maybe it's just a column, then that changes. Oh, I see. If you have if your grid is just a single column, then that weighting kind of goes away. Then you don't need this preference for things in the same row. There's only one row, I guess. All right, let's see what it does. So we set up some variables for ourselves. The minimum Cartesian, I don't know what it's going to do with that, but it starts out at the maximum possible value for a number. And then we get the left and top position. Okay, so we get I'm presuming this is what we're going to consider the origin. Our container in this case is the customization palette, and we're getting the top and left coordinates of the customization palette. So that's going to maybe be our 0, 0. And interestingly enough, it will like increase going down as opposed to increase going up. So it'll increase like the value, vertical values increase as you work your way further down the screen, and then from left to right it will increase. Strange how that I've kind of internalized that, but it is bizarre. Okay, so the first thing we do is we iterate through all of the children. We see whether or not we have any lazy stored coordinates. And it looks like we always assume we get something back from this. So I'm going to assume lazy store get. I see. If we have it already in the node position store, we'll just return that value immediately. Otherwise, we will get the bounding client rect for the node and convert that. Yeah, we'll store that. You know what we really should be using here is get bounds without flushing. That is a power we could use here. Rather than get bounding client rect, we'll do a layout flush. Okay. And we store that. Let's go back up to find. So we've gone through each child. We're going through each child, and for each child we get its position. We get its offset based on the origin. Then we get the distance from our target X value and our target Y value. This is some pixel coordinate that we're trying to find the closest one. So we're getting the difference between our offset for this child and the targets. And then we divide the difference horizontally by the height to width factor so that we prefer items which are in the same row. So that's interesting. So we reduce the difference in the horizontal difference instead of what I said before, which was like increasing the distance because of some rule or heuristic. What we're doing is we're reducing the horizontal distance by some factor. We're dividing it by this height to width factor. And then we are calculating the Cartesian distance or the Cartesian difference. So we multiply the difference in height, we square it. Height squared plus, oh yeah, this is Pythagoras, right? Hang on, Cartesian distance. We're gonna get the distance horizontally will squared by the vertical distance squared, and the Cartesian distance, I guess you don't necessarily need to do the square root of it. You don't need the exact distance. You just need to know which one's closest. So you don't need to do the square root. If it's less than the max value, which it will be, then we hold on to that, and the closest node is the node. And we're going to loop through until we find the one that is the closest based on this. Okay. Okay, that makes sense. Next, correct this node based on what we're dragging. So if we found the closest node, we're going to get its bounds, which we would have already got up here. Like, so it's stored in the lazy store. And if we're going to find the far side of the far side, if we're on right to left, or if we're doing right to left, then the far side is the left, otherwise it's the right. So we get the outside x is the right coordinate. Check if we're closer to the next target to this one. Only move if we're not targeting a node in a different row. Wow. Okay, so if the coordinate, the y coordinate, is greater than so if we're past the top of the target and we're less than the bottom of the target, so if we're within the target, then we check to see whether or not we're, oh, I see. We check to see whether or not we are outside x to the right or the left of it, to figure out where we're going to apply. So what this is being used for, just to be abundantly clear, because this is all very complicated, but to be abundantly clear, why we're jumping through all of these hoops is so that we can know, like, if I'm, it's this, like, what I imagine that this bookmarks menu isn't moving. I'm up to the right of its center, and as my mouse coordinate moves closer to its center, I'm eventually going to cross over to the point where I'm closer to its left side, and then it moves the item to the left. That's basically what's being calculated here. This is really sophisticated. All right, I think I understand. Find the closest. So we're gonna fill out some of these parameters. DOM node, a container. The container element that contains one or more rows of child elements in some kind of grid formation. Param number ax, the x coordinate, x horizontal coordinate that we're finding the closest child node for, param number ay, the y vertical coordinate that we're finding the closest child node for. And then we'll return an element, or a DOM node. Now why is this? Oh, I prefer lowercase n for number. Okie dokie. So I'm gonna describe what's happening here. First, iterate through all children and find the closest one, preferring closest child to the AX and AY coordinates, preferring children in the same row as the AX and AY coordinates. Now correct this node based on what we're dragging. Now, not what we're dragging, it's now refine our result based on whether or not we're closer to the outside X edge, to the far outside edge of the closest node. If we are, we actually want to return the closest node's sibling. Closest node's sibling. Because why? Find customize mode. We want to return the closest node's sibling because this is the one we'll style to indicate drop position. Indicate the drop position. The returns DOM node, the closest node to the AX and AY coordinates, preferring child nodes in the same row of the grid. It may also return null. And if there's no, if this is the last, this may also return the container itself if the closest node is the if the coordinates are on the outside edge of the last node in the container. Yeah. Okay. Next up, insert a placeholder by shifting the subsequent children out of the way. We go through all the children and shift them based on the position they would have if we'd inserted something before A before. We use CSS transforms for this, which are CSS transitioned. Excellent. I'm getting buzzed. I'm getting beeped. Who could this be? Yeah. Sorry, I just a message that can wait, but it's a good message. Insert placeholder. Okay, so param DOM node a container param a. What is a before? Presumably that's another DOM node. A before param size. It's going to be a rectangle. Looks like it's a rect. DOM rect a size. DOM, maybe DOM read only rect, or DOM rect read only. Yeah. And then A is from this area. That's got to be a Boolean. Okay. So container, the container to container of the nodes for which we are inserting the placeholders. The placeholder. And shifting the child nodes, DOM node before the node before which, the child node before which we are inserting the placeholder. Size. Who calls this? Probably customize mode again. Get item drag size. Oh, the size of the placeholder to create is from this area. True if the source node happens to be true if the node being dragged happens to be from this container as opposed to some other container like a toolbar. For instance. Okay, so what we do is we go through each of the children of the container, we skip over hidden ones. If we find the one that we're inserting the placeholder before, start shifting everything that comes after. One exception is inserting at the end of the menu panel, in which case we do not shift the placeholders. Okay, well we don't, okay. So we set this to suddenly we've switched modes to we're shifted. And if the node is from this area and we're not in the last position, then we're going to set node transition to true. And then we're going to set a transform, a CSS transform to move the child based on the next node. Otherwise, we reset the transform. Oh, wow. And then we intentionally flush layout here. And then after we've inserted the placeholder, if we have an item in here and the item that we were dragging happens to be from this area, and what is last placeholder insertion? That feels like a thing. This is a private member that we should have here. Last placeholder insertion equals null. This is of type DOM node or null. Is the last the item, the child node immediately after the most recently placed placeholder, presuming place placeholder for since this area position manager was constructed. The child node immediately after the most recently placed placeholder. Maybe that's enough. Maybe null if no placeholder has been been inserted yet, or if the placeholder is at the end of the container, right? And we'll set that to use the if there is one more child and we are from this area and there isn't yet a last placeholder position, we'll get the last child's layout information and then remove all of the no transition attributes. Why would we do that? I'm guessing this is so that we can like make sure that the animation occurs. I have to believe. It seems pretty old school. You could, I think what you could do these days is you could like request animation frame and then maybe 2 nested request animation frames and then remove the attributes. That way you don't have to flush layout. Okay. Is there anything in here to next node and apply it? What is this? I wish I knew what this was. Maybe we can see when this was inserted. I'm gonna be worried that it was inserted all at the same time. Okay, here we go. Show the change set. Why was this inserted? Causes some unwanted movement. When picking up an item in the customization view and moving the mouse, the other items jump to a state that ignores the dragged icon and then jumps back into the right position. Causes a lot of jarring motion when picking up an item, which is especially confusing when reordering things inside the panel menu. The space of the dragged item should remain free until it is moved enough so that it would land in a different place when dropped. I see. So the issue is that before, when you'd start your drag, we would have moved everything by now. And what we want to do is only begin accommodate, like filling in that space. Like let's remove this rule and see what happens. Let's see what happens. Dang the stash. Oh, the mustache. Yeah, sorry. I'm growing some facial hair, gang. Here. Can I let me see if I can zoom in. Can I do better? That's about as zoomed as it gets. But there's the mustache. Okay, so if I pick this up, yeah, okay, so there's like this initial frame where the find button in this case is positioning itself behind print because this element goes away as soon as I start dragging it. So that's what this bit of code does. So I'm gonna had a comment. This is to fix bug such and such, which without this routine, when we start the drag of an item in the customization palette, we'd take the dragged item out of the flow of the document, and only then insert the placeholder, creating a lot of motion on the initial drag. And so we mask this by removing the item and inserting the placeholder for the dragged item in a single shot without animation. We mask this case. Okay. And we have to flush layout to do this? What happens if we don't flush layout to do this? I'm guessing we have to flush layout to do this. Does customizable UI work on touchscreen? I believe it does. I think we were, when sort of Windows touchscreens became more popular, we got some in our in the lab we could test. We were astonished at how well it worked. You know, touchscreens, I think, were the web platform for touch was using, we were using pointer events already. Like, we kind of saw touchscreens coming. And so the platform itself was kind of already ready to transition what it thought of as traditional mouse events to pointer events. And so this stuff all kind of worked, which was astonishing. Yeah, we do need that flush. Presumably to get the position of yeah. Flush layout to force the snap transition. Okay. Done. So that's interesting. We learned something there. All right, next, reset all of the transforms as container optionally without transitioning them. Okay. DOM node, a container. Just reset the transforms. Boolean. If truthy adds a no transition attribute to the node while resetting the transform, it is assumed that a CSS rule will interpret the no transition attribute as a directive to skip transition animations. So we reset the transforms. Need to force a reflow, otherwise this won't work. Oh, this is unfortunate because we're doing this in a loop. So we're flushing layout a lot here, which is really unfortunate. We snap back, so we assume there's no more last placeholder insertion point to keep track of. Okay. We're getting there. We're almost done. Diff with next. What are we doing? We get the position of some node. We see which side is considered next, I guess. Get visible sibling for direction. Next side. First, we determine the transform along the x-axis. Usually there will be a next node to base this on. So if there is a next node, then we get the bounds of the next node, and then we subtract the distance of the side. In this case, it's, oh, I see, the origin side, which in RTL is the right side and LTR is the left side. And we get the difference there. The actual distance between line creeps and messes with alignments. So, okay. Else, we don't have a sibling whose position we can use. Let's see if we're also the first item, which complicates things. If we're the first in row, maybe we store the horizontal distance between nodes. If not, we'll use the width of the incoming node as a proxy. Okay. If not the first node, we should be able to get the distance to the previous node and use the inverse unless there's no room for another node. We are the last node, there's no room for another one. Okay. If we've not determined the vertical difference yet, check it here. And then we translate, because ultimately what we're doing is we're returning a translation rule. So we're returning a string. We're getting a translation rule. Node, and what size? We just use that to figure out the difference for some rect. What is this used for again? When we're inserting the placeholder, we're going through each of the children, and then based on the size of the placeholder, we figure out the transform to apply to it. Okay, determines the transform rule to apply to a node to insert translate. No, that diff with next. Not determines the transform rule to apply to a node to reposition it to accommodate a placeholder for a placeholder drop target for a dragged node of a size. DOM node, the node to calculate the transform rule. Transform rule for DOM rect read only. Size of the placeholder drop target that was inserted, causing the which then requires us to reposition this node. String the transform the CSS transform rule to apply to a node. Okay. Helper function to find the transform a node, find the transform for a node if there isn't a next node to base that on. Okay. The node to have the transform applied to. Node bounds. Move next based on previous. Node bounds is DOM rect read only. DOM rect read only. The bounding rect. The bounding rect info of a node. A first node in row. First node in a node's row in the container grid. The container grid. And then what does this do? It returns some numeric value. Returns number. Returns the it's only returning, find the horizontal transform value. There isn't a next node to base that on. The horizontal distance to transform a node. Let's lazy store get next. If, however, this means we move outside the containers box, we should move it to the line that if outside the next row instead. Store get the side minus, okay. A first node in row is a DOM node. Okay. Here, we're in less complicated territory here. Get the DOM rect read only for a node from our cache. If the rect is not yet cached, get its position information. Calculate that rect and cache it now. Okay. DOM node. The node whose position info, whose DOM rect read only that we want. Return DOM rect read only. The latest, the size and position of a node that was either just calculated or previously calculated during the lifetime of this area position manager and cached. There we go. First in row. Hey, it's me. Did I write this? I'm not entirely sure why we need to take the floor of these values. It looks like periodically we're getting fractional pixels back from lazy store get. I filed this bug to investigate. Okay. Returns the first node in a node's row in the grid, container grid. Container grid? Grid container. Okay, container grid. Just using that consistently. Okay. DOM node. We have a node to find the node in the row for which we want to find the first node. Returns DOM node. So we get the top, the bound, the top bound, and then get visible sibling for direction if the lazy store previous bottom is less than bound. So as soon as we exceed, we wrap around and go to the next row, then we go like nope, and we return the node. Otherwise, we go to the previous element. Okay. And get visible sibling for direction. Okay. Returns the next visible sibling DOM node to a node. in the direction A direction. DOM node, the node to get the next sibling, visible sibling for. Direction. I think this is a string. One of either previous or next. No other values are accepted. Any other value will probably throw. Turns. Don't know. There we go. We're almost through. Now we need to document drag position manager, which is a very small sort of singleton, which I think is managing multiple instances of area position manager. Okay. Drag position manager manages a the area position managers for all of the customizable areas. Areas equals, we just get the palette. What? Did this used to be other? Why does this need to be a loop? I don't think this needs to be a loop anymore. When did this need to be other stuff? Drag position manager. Was there something else in this list at some point? Remove old panel code. Right. It used to be a grid. The panel used to be a grid. Okay. For all the grid-like customization areas, these days, that's just the customization palette. Start. So areas. This. I can just say like, let palette area equal that. Position manager equals that. If position manager will update, else managers set palette area. And drag position manager stop, tear down palette dragging, or on drag end. This really seems like it only makes sense if we had multiple grids, but we don't anymore. So I don't know why we need this gmanager's weak map anymore. I guess, yeah. These days, this gmanager's weak map may have made more sense when we had the menu panel also acting as a grid. It's maybe a bit, it's maybe superfluous at this point. Start. Starts drag position management for a starts customize mode, drag position management for a window. DOM window. Browser window to start drag position management in. Does not have a return value. Stops, customize, mode, drag, position management. For all windows. Get manager for area. Returns, so DOM node returns the area position manager for a particular area DOM node. Returns the area position manager instance for a particular area DOM node if one has been created, because this could be null. Done. We're done here, gang. That's documented. Danny Colin, I hope you don't mind. I know you have a tremendous beard, tremendous facial hair. I don't know if that's still the case, but last time I saw you, you had a tremendous set of facial hairs. I'm curious if you have any tips for the people in the chat or for myself who are in the market for facial hair. What are your tips for, as someone who's probably professionally grown facial hair for a number of years, would be my guess. Let's hear your tips. That's so cool. All right, all done. Get diff. Looks great. So we're gonna commit, amend. I'm gonna look at the status here. I think it's just the one file that was changed. First we'll see if there's any linting stuff to fix. Just let it grow, says Danny Colin. Great tip. Great tip. Do you do any like oils or special treatment or brushing or like, okay, tell me how you eat soup, poutine, and spaghetti. I need to know, because, you know, this is not my first rodeo. I've had facial hair before, but I'm being reminded of the challenges of having, you know, of eating with facial hair. So if you've got any tips, that'd be great. Eating tips, management tips, just, you know, help us, Wise One. Okay, so that's done. That's drag position manager. Now we're going into the real hairy stuff. This is gonna take us a while. All right, so strap in. Actually, before we do that, let's try and build the docs here. What was it? Disable warnings. If you want a sense of Danny Colin's facial hair, I don't know if you're you get a little bit of it from your Matrix avatar. I think when I saw you last, though, it was much, much longer. Like, it's been a while since I've seen you. I think it was in August. I'm just trying to, like, what was the impression I got? Like, let's see here. And I'm not looking at faces here. I'm looking at beards. Just, these are the epic beards that came to mind. Or any of these, like, maybe, well, no, that's not quite right. It's not quite right. This is close. That's the vibe I remember getting. Now, he didn't have it all braided out like this, but it was like immense. What's Gimli's beard look like? Gimli. Gimli. This is pretty close. Again, I don't think you had them braided out, but it was this intense. That's what I remember. That's like the impression that I have in my head. I'm probably exaggerating a bit in my mind. It's been a little built out, but that's the beard I remember. Not the armor, not the stature, not the helmet, just the beard. Just the beard. Okay, area position manager. Look at all this. This is brilliant. I'm really happy with that. And then, oh, we need to get, right, we need to get drag position manager added to that as well. Drag position manager. Let's let that do its rebuild. So Danny Colin says, I brush it and that's pretty much it. It's curly so it doesn't grow in a way that prevents me from easily eating soup. You're so lucky. Here we go. There we go. Showed up. I think we can add some commentary here. These classes manage the drag and the drag animations and transitions that are used by the customize mode palette grid. For example, this powers the animation that moves. How would you describe it? That moves. This powers the animation that moves items from row to row and inserts the placeholders. The drop target, the placeholder drop targets. Specifically, I'll say not for example. Specifically, this powers the animations that move items from row to row, and inserts the placeholder drop targets. Yeah, that's probably enough. Boom. All right, let's commit. Amend, and let's move on to the next one. All right. Customize mode. Ooh, not looking forward to this. Not looking forward to this. Customize mode .rst. Or maybe it should be customize dash mode. And this should be panel dash multi dash view maybe. I don't know. I'm being very inconsistent here. I feel bad. Oh well. Customize mode. Okay. This module is responsible for the mode of the browser window that lets the mode of the browser window that lets users drag items around in customizable areas, customizable toolbars and panels, as well as the customization palette grid. Okay. And then we are going to insert our auto class, because I think it's a class. How many classes do we have in here? Yeah, we have an old school prototype class, and wow, there's a lot going on in here. This is not something we're going to be able to complete in a single episode. This seems like needless indirection. Okay. Well, here goes nothing. So much going on. Maybe we'll start by converting this into a proper ES6 class and doing what we did before with related like private members and whatnot. I think that's probably a healthy thing to do, presuming that there's nothing in our tests that are relying on some of these private members. So for example, let's just do a quick check. Yeah, that seems okay. Stowed palette. No tests. Skip source node check. So far, doesn't smell too bad. All right, let's turn this into an ES6 class. Export class, customize mode, constructor, window, and then we have to change a bunch of this stuff. So I won't do the private member thing just yet. We're gonna have to go and do each of these. One by one. I'll bet you there's a mechanical, like a script way I could do this, but I don't know it. But certainly this feels very automatable. Oh well. Oh, look at this. I don't even know if you need that, but okay. This reminds me of like jQuery, jQuery and Prototype, which is, this was one of the first things I worked on. This would have been back in 2013, 2014. jQuery and Prototype were still big deals back then. This was pre-React. Browser web compat, cross browser development was even more of a nightmare than it is now. And so, we're looking at code from an earlier time. Wow. And there's a bunch of async stuff that probably got added after the fact. All of this needs documentation. I'm not looking forward to this. Some of it has some documentation, but not all of it. Boop, beep, boop, 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 beep, boop, beep, boop. Anyone here on Skype still? We doing this on Skype? Boop, beep, boop, beep, boop. We're talking about 2013, 2014. That was cutting edge web conferencing stuff back then. Skype. It was a verb. There's a pretty good College Humor / Dropout sketch. The CEO of Skype. It's not the real CEO of Skype. It's Brennan Lee Mulligan, if that name sounds familiar at all. Brennan Lee Mulligan is in a pretty funny video, which is like an interview, an ad from the CEO of Skype during the sudden, like, surging popularity of Zoom and during like the COVID lockdowns for work and for communicating with like friends and family, and how Skype and Microsoft completely dropped the ball and had their lunch eaten. Boop, beep, boop, boop. Wow, so many methods. So many methods. This is complicated stuff. Did you ever imagine that customized mode was this complicated? But battle hardened. It's been like this probably since 2013 or 14 when Firefox 27 I think first went out. So just because it's big and complicated doesn't mean it doesn't work. It just means it's probably hard to work on, hard to make changes to. Ooh, you seeing this stuff? A little Easter egg there. I'm not gonna say anymore. All right, done. And then there's like a debug method here. There's like a warning because of this. All right. Does it still work having refactored it? Random Dev says, Skype only reminds me of the website is down video now. I don't know that video. I don't know that video. Boop, beep, boop. Beep, boop, bloop. All right, I'll stop making that noise. All right, this all works. So now we are going to try and document our class. This class manages the customize mode, manages the lifetime of the customized mode UI in a single browser window. Browser window. There is one instance of customized mode per browser window. When do we create one of these things? New customized mode. Yeah, G customized mode. It's a meme-ish video of an admin wanting to just play Halo and having people call him on Skype to solve issues. Oh. Such is life. Okay, so let's take a look and see whether or not we've got our documentation there built out. Customize mode. Hey, all right. And we've got some things already kind of showing up in here. This is nice. This is nice. What's there to say? You know what? I think it's fine. I'm going to show you all the Easter egg because we're going to be looking at the source code anyways. So don't tell anyone, all right? This is from back in the day. Some of you might already know this. Like, this is fairly well publicized at this point, but some of you might not have heard of this. I'm trying to remember when we introduced this. Long, long, long ago. But here's what happens. If you take everything out of the palette, you take everything out. So this is something, like, you've gotta really be, like, powerful, like a power user customization. Like, you want it all, every single feature. One of the things you'll notice is that there's an item inside the customized mode called flexible space. Flexible space is a special one in that you can't actually remove it. It just spawns more of them. And notice that having moved everything except flexible space out, like if I put this back in here, I'm gonna move the last one. I want you to watch down here. I'm gonna take the last item out. We get a little button. We get a little button down here. I click that button. Oh, hello. Hello. I can use the keyboard. Play me some Pong. This is a little whimsicorn Pong here. There's actually, the AI is pretty good. I think I've beaten this Pong once. You kind of really have to skip it off the edge to confuse the AI. There we go. I got it. and it speeds up pretty quick. And like where exactly the edges are can be misleading of the paddles. But there you go. There, now you know about one of the Easter eggs. It's been a while since we've done an Easter egg, mainly because Easter eggs are like, it's a great way of accidentally introducing bugs. You don't want to do too many, and you only want to do them in places where users aren't going to accidentally stumble into them without it being delightful. If your Easter egg is going to horrify people or confuse them or make them feel unsafe, it's a bad Easter egg. And this one seems pretty obscure. It's obscure enough that we think it's just kind of fun, as a fun little delight moment. Don't tell anyone. Don't tell anyone. Remove everything and open the overflow menu. I mean, I don't know if this is an Easter egg so much as it's a pun. The overflow menu, I mean, you may wonder, like, what is this little thing? This is like a leftover from an era where we had a lot of critters in the UI. And this is one of the remaining critters. And you might be like, what is this? What is this thing that's like... I mean, this thing is telling you that you can drop items in here. But, like, why? What is this creature? Well, guess what? It kind of looks like a dragon, right? A dragon drop? Oh, the outside custom, you get a whimsy bouncing around. That used to be the case. When you could remove everything. So this app menu panel, you used to be able to take everything out, and then we'd have like a whimsicorn bouncing around inside of it. But you can't remove items from the app menu anymore. We started stuffing too much stuff in here for that. So that's back from when we had it, like pre-Photon era, when we had the grid in the app menu. You could remove all the items, and then there was like a whimsicorn that would show up in the panel if you removed all the items, which is kind of fun. All right, we've got 10 or so minutes remaining. Let's see if we can start documenting some of this stuff. So we have our constructor here, and looks like we're setting up some references and some variables. Translation observer. On translations, things get translated. Interesting. Ensure customization panels. We get the customization content container. We'll insert the Fluent if we need it. We'll create the customization container. We'll replace it with, oh, I see. There's like a lazy, so we lazily create the customize mode DOM stuff in here. And we'll only insert it on the very first time that you need to access customize mode, which I believe only occurs anytime things are moving around in the toolbars or you enter customize mode. Okay. I guess the first thing I want to do now is start converting a bunch of these into private members. So let's do that next. Window is null. Does anything ever use gcustomize mode window? That would be very surprising. So no. So we're gonna make this a private member. Find, replace this window. All right. Save. Yeah. What? Why did it close? Okay. Next up, document. This is another shortcut. Document. So we're gonna say this dot document. This dot document. Oh, cancel. And then, yeah, I didn't check, but no one's using that, right? Nope. Customizable mode, customize mode areas. Ah, this one's used. Okay. So this is public. We might want to add an accessor rather than, or like not an accessor, but a method to customize mode rather than making this public. That seems like a bad idea. But for now, public used by accessed by such and such. Changed. Customize mode changed. Okay. Changed. Its value is never read. This seems useless. Changed is never read from. We might have ourselves something vestigial. I wrote this 11 years ago. Changed this change. We dispatch toolbox events and we toolbox event, and we used to say what changed, but now we don't. So we don't need changed anymore. We can get rid of it. Nice. Transitioning. Okay, that one at least is accessed. No one uses it outside. Good. Stowed pallet. To the visible palette. Stow palettes reference the old invisible palette so we can restore palette to its original state after exiting customize mode. Okay, that's very complicated, but already. Drag over item. Our job is not to judge, but to document. We're like documentarians. We have, there are ethics, the ethics of the documentarian. You do not judge, you simply document. Document what is. Skip source node check. Main view context. Doesn't look like anyone ever uses that. Never used. Never used. We can just get rid of it. Incredible. Incredible. A lot of vestigial stuff we're discovering in this transition to ES6 classes. It's kind of nice. Okay. These are the commands we continue to leave enabled while in customized mode. All other commands are disabled. We remove the disabled attribute when leaving customized mode. Okay. Enabled commands. Okay. Get handler. Good. This dot handler. Right. Do that one as well. What am I seeing in red down here? What is it worried about? On UI change. What are you worried about here? What does this red line mean? This red, what is this? On UI change. Removed lines. I had removed lines? Alright. I don't know what that means. Don't know what it means. Uninit, $, toggle, set tab. These I think are all public. G customize mode, uninit. Oh, really? Interesting. So this is private. Toggle. Does no one calls toggle? Did anyone used to call toggle? Let's look at an ESR from back in the day. Yes. Yes, we used to have a button that would call toggle at the bottom of the pool of the panel, and we don't anymore. This is no longer used. G customize mode. Set tab, that is used publicly. G customize mode. Enter is definitely used. Yes. G customize mode. Exit is also used. Yeah. Update, there's no way that's, yeah, that won't be used outside. So we're gonna replace that. Here, get customizable child for node. Replace all. Time is it? 2:31. Okay, I think we're gonna stop here. We're doing we're making good headway. I'm getting up to speed and familiarized with customized mode, and we're finding old vestigial things that we can just rip out, which is nice. Now that is low-hanging fruit. It's like, oh, this is dead code, remove dead code. But every time you remove dead code, you're making things easier for future hackers, future developers, because it's just like one less thing for them to have to consider. So dead code removal is good, and documentation is good. All right, well, I think I'm going to end it here. Thank you so much for watching episode 383 of The Joy of Coding. Next week, we're going to keep going. I I think we're going to be hanging around in customize mode for at least another couple of episodes, so strap in. But let me know what you think. There's a rate this episode link here. Link to rate this episode. And I read everything that comes in. This is a great opportunity. If you are bored stiff by all of this documentation stuff and you want me to do something else, maybe take a break and come back to this, or you have other feedback, things you want to see more of, or questions that you want to try and have me answer on the stream, go ahead and send them in. I read everything that comes in on this forum. It's a great opportunity to get your voice heard, and I'll check it out. And with that, I think I'm gonna stop here. Thank you so much again for watching episode 383 of The Joy of Coding. Have yourselves a great week. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
The joy of coding.
See ya.